Dear brothers and sisters, indeed, I feel great honor they come to speak. I think the place where I can't pronounce that properly. You see that Swamiji. Actually, I have this sort of privilege to visit the small rock, Kanyakumari, from where you see his boat start. I think his sort of vision already, I think, the ancient Indian sort of thought, Indian knowledge can be useful, irrespective what continent, what nation. So he start journey from there. So then he established World Parliament of Religion. I think his sort of vision, I think, are great. But then the follower of, people involved in that organization, they simply carry the name, and occasionally some are say, Conference, World Parliament of Religion. I participated, you see, I think few occasions. One I remember Cape Town, one in Australia, one in I think Chicago or America. Anyway, so when the recent meeting in I think in Melbourne, I expressed, you see, this organization, something very important, but looks your organization a little bit sleepy. So then later, you see, they came to see me, invitation. So that last their meeting in America. Salt Lake City, where?
No.
Salt Lake City. Then they told me, since you expressed that way, so we are working more sort of active or more more rigorously. So then I accepted. Of course, I am very much sort of willing to go there, but then because of illness, I could not participate. So in any way, I really feel great honor, some connection. Now, of course, this meeting provide me a meeting or reunion with some of my long-time friends. When I look my long-time friend, you see, then that reminds me, I also quite old. Like Marutara, you there. When he was working as a licensed officer, very young, very active, now looks quite old. And Matrali, my first visit to Europe, 1973, you interviewed me. What is the reason you have some interest to visit Europe? Then I told, I consider myself as a citizen of the world. Do you remember? So this sort of event provides me meeting my long time, my friend. I think all my friend, not only just sort of friend on the superficial, but from deep inside. So I really appreciate our friendship. That kind of friendship, I really appreciate. So from the Buddhist viewpoint, not only Buddhism, but also the Indian tradition, we have the sort of concept of rebirth. So one lifetime create genuine friendship, the impact that will carry life after life. So in any way, thank you very much. You invited me here. Now the topic, as I briefly mentioned, that sadhu, I think long-sighted way.
No, far-sighted.
Far-sighted vision. So then, I'm one of the students of ancient Indian philosophy, Indian knowledge, including logic, and ancient Indian knowledge about human mind, human psychology. When I first came to India as a refugee in 1959, and my only concern is how to preserve our own sort of this knowledge. Then with the help of Pandit Nehru, and of course come to India, and also various concerned the state government. Eventually we re-establish a major learning center over several centuries. You see, these monastic institution, truly learning center. And sometimes we describe some of these monastic institution we call Nalanda of Tibet. So we re-establish in India because of the availability of land, and then these re-established in Karnataka state, in Mysore state. So like that, and also is it, we asked Pandit Nehru, we want a separate Tibetan school. So Pandit Nehru fully supported. So immediately he asked the education minister, Mr. Mali or something. So he, as a chair and committee, set up Tibetan Society of Education, like that. So these work mainly preservation of our own tradition, including our language. Then more wider contact with, you see, people from different continent, different country, particularly scientists. Then it became clear our ancient knowledge, ancient Indian tradition, which we kept over 1,000 years, say, alive, right? Through rigorous study, not few moment meditation or something, or chanting, not that. At least 20, 30 years rigorous study. The root text memorize. Then, according to commentary, each word explain. Then use extensively logic, debate. So that's Nalanda tradition. The Shantarakshita is the 8th century, invited by Tibetan emperor. He himself, at that time, 8th century, I think the most sort of famous, say, a scholar, a monk, bhikshu, and great philosopher, and great logician. So we can judge about his knowledge. Some of his writing available. When we read this, then we can say, oh, that author is truly great scholar and a logician. So therefore, you see, when I sort of meet, as I mentioned earlier, see, people, more serious people from different sort of field, then it seems to me, oh, the knowledge which we kept originally come from Nalanda, there's something relevant to today's world. Number of scientists now showing interest about some of these philosophical views, such as quantum physics. I think detailed explanation, we call Madhyamika philosophy or Chitta Mantra philosophy, is actually, it seems to me, the background of quantum physics. So we have sort of better position to explain about quantum physics. The modern, the scientist, quantum physicist, is up to certain level, they have a certain explanation. They can explain with confidence. Then deeper, they themselves not very clear. Whereas our knowledge, all these ancient Indian masters, they, I think, such way, to shift how Shivaji thought, shift how
Precisely.
very precisely, very detailed. So like that. And then also, the psychology, human mind, the system of human mind, human emotion. Sometimes I was a little bit bold, I think too bold, mentioning or expressing the modern psychology, compare ancient Indian psychology, modern psychology looks like a kindergarten level. Ancient Indian psychology, highly developed, really. So now today, firstly, many scientists really showing eagerness to learn from this knowledge. Then I convinced now this ancient Indian knowledge, which we kept thoroughly, is now seems the time come. Some service, help from that knowledge to humanity, not just Buddhist, for humanity. Psychology and logic. Logic, in any subject we can use. Some occasion, when we have sort of a meeting with scientists, some scientists, after they visit the courtyard debate, so they very much impressed. Some scientists told me, that method can be used some other subject. He asked me. Then I told, certainly. This is just method to make clear the point. So use the logical approach. Then one occasion, I think one American scientist, I can't remember his name, he so impressed, the way we debate. So during our sort of discussion with scientists and some Tibetan monks also there, the copying, using this, he raised certain point with some other sort of scientist, and then use his reason with this is a Tibetan style. So in a way, in human mind, the scientists really eager to learn. Then philosophical fields also, many showing interest. Then overall, now today, we have some kind of crisis, the mental crisis. That also leads with sort of what's the mental principle. Without that, you see, the education become instrument for create more trouble. Education's supposed to see to bring further development and reduce problem. But existing education system sometimes you see create more problem. Why? Education is related with our brain. Human brain is something very unique. Now, opener of that brain is education. So the good brain must combine with warm-heartedness. Then all these knowledge become constructive. These knowledge combined with anger, hatred, or too much self-centered attitude, then these knowledge become troublemaker. Obviously, many troublemaker actually on this planet, I think they are quite well educated. I think sometimes it seems uneducated people looks more honest, or better educated people. So now that, I think not only, I think that is really related with humanity. In order to create happy humanity, education is key factor. So education must go along the warm-heartedness, some kind of combination or work together, warm-heartedness and brilliant brain go together, then our education will be constructive sort of factor like that. So then, ancient Indian sort of tradition, Indian knowledge, firstly about mind, about emotion, how to tackle these destructive emotion. That's very relevant to today's world. Then, in order to develop warm-heartedness, if we rely on religion, will not cover 7 billion human beings. Today, actually, out of 7 billion, 1 billion human being non-believer. So now we need secular way, according to Indian understanding. Secular means not based or depend on religion. In the West, the very word secular, many of my friends have some reservation. In the West, secular, they usually get this sort of impression, a little bit sort of negative towards religion. Even some of my friends say, the atheism and secularism, is there some connection? According to Indian understanding, no. Secular means respect all religions and also respect non-believer. That concept, I think, very relevant to today's world. India's own constitution also, you see, very much sort of connected with secular. Not at all, it's something negative towards religion. So respect all religion and also respect non-believer. So according to that sort of concept and teaching, moral principle on the basis of scientific finding. Now many scientists, now they say calm mind is very important for our physical health. Constant anger, constant hatred actually eating our immune system. They actually sort of experimented. They found the people people who have some sort of training about compassion, their mind much more peaceful. Result, their health also much better. So nowadays we use the word healthy mind, healthy body. So therefore, and then more important, nowadays some scientists, serious scientists, they say basic human nature is more compassionate. This is really hopeful sign. Basic human nature is anger. Then no hope. But basic human nature is more compassionate. It's quite sort of, if we think properly, as the way we born, way we survive, totally depend on others' affection, particularly mother's affection. Without that, we die. So therefore, on the basis of scientific finding and our common sense, no matter how sort of educated and how wealthy person, I think without a smile, help people remain little distance. Even a person without sort of money, without sort of some other thing, but showing smile, genuine sort of warm-hearted feeling. Then, not only human being, even dogs, they also love. They don't care about your wealth or your power. They don't care. Only they care, smile. And our way, use our eye, sincere. Then dogs appreciate. Cats also. So sometimes I think animals more honest. You human being, because of this brain, because of our education, now for example, I usually see telling people, we have this smile. Smile is, I think, the proper way to express your warm feeling. But we're so clever. This smile also sometimes become an artificial smile or diplomatic smile. Sarcastic smile, isn't it? Such smile, instead of bring sort of friendship or inner peace, but sometimes more suspicion. So in any way, so today we really need education about our inner value. So existing education system very much oriented about material value. When the subject about truth or honesty, these things come, usually relying on religion. So as I mentioned earlier, we will not cover 7 billion human beings. And then also religion, there are different sort of views, different philosophy. So complications there. So India's tradition, secular way, teach about inner value. So with collaboration, some institutions such as Tata Institution and some universities, and also in America, the Emory University and some other organization. You see, now we're really working, making draft about a secular education about sort of moral ethics, strictly secular way. So in this respect, India's 1,000-year-old tradition of, firstly, ahimsa. Ahimsa means ahimsa with anger will not go together. Ahimsa very much based on motivation level, karuna. So 1,000-year-old India tradition, ahimsa automatically come with karuna. Then secular. So these ancient Indian sort of tradition, seems now very relevant to today's world. So now only thing is, the modern Indian is not much pay attention about these values. Sometimes I jokingly telling people, you see, you Indian, more westernized, your culture, your way of life also now creates some kind of materialistic life, materialistic culture. That's why so many corruptions there, all levels. So our 1,000-year-old sort of tradition, the corrupted action, also you see, some kind of non-violence, without a proper sort of your right, and make money. Also some kind of violence against ahimsa. Naturally, ahimsa, as I mentioned earlier, ahimsa and karuna go together. So if you have karuna, you must respect their right. You have no special right to use their money or something like that. So therefore, I think ancient Indian knowledge, not just through prayer, but through sort of reasoning, through logical approach. I think Indian ancient sort of knowledge now really, I feel, now it seems very relevant to today's world. So please, my Indian brothers, sisters, please now pay more attention about your 1,000-year-old your tradition. Not just to carry some pujas or some rituals, no. Or study about human mind, about the human emotion. And then the reason, the ahimsa. And then also with that, religious harmony. I think India is the only country where all religious faith live together. Occasionally there's some problem here and there, that's understandable. So basically, I think India is the only nation where, beside homegrown different religion, but all world major religious tradition now settled in this country. Wonderful. So I often is telling some concerned officials, government of India, you see, India should now make active role regarding promotion of religious harmony. And particularly nowadays, you see, in some cases, in some area, religion itself now dividing, not only dividing, but killing. So the India's tradition of religious harmony is very, very relevant. So over a billion populated nation, in spite of a lot of problem, but religious harmony, basically, I think, really you kept. This, not only just a political reason, over 3,000 years, you see, you have this sort of tradition, religious harmony. So these are something very important. So, now that's about the ancient Indian Kasuta, Indian thought, Indian knowledge, something relevant to today's world. So these, I'm talking this just intellectual level, but through my own experience, now it becomes clear. So these ancient Indian sort of knowledge now are very much relevant to today's world. So if may I say so, my elder brothers, sisters, now, okay, now this younger one, pay more attention about your 1,000-year-old tradition, and the old people also, you see, advise your children, grandchildren, grandchildren. That's all, thank you. Now I prefer question and answer some interaction. And since many people, experienced people, so I would like to have some suggestions or some criticisms. Thank you.
We now have the question answer session. So kindly raise your hands, and when you have a question to ask, kindly introduce yourself. Yeah, Puneet.
Okay.
Yes.
Your Holiness, thank you very much for the lecture. I believe you are 82 years old. I just wanted to ask you, how do you look so young?
Yes, often you see my friend ask me that question. So I usually telling them, that's my secret. Actually, you see, nothing special. I think many of you, may share, you see, each night, 9 hours sleep. About 6 o'clock, sleep. Then next, 3 o'clock, wake up. And some meditation. See, meditation, the analytical meditation, mainly analyze. We call vipassana. Not only sort of breathing on these things, but actually intellectual level, analyze everything. Firstly, analyze whether there is Atma or what is the Atma or Anatma. And Patitsamupanda. I found really immense effect my emotion. So I usually see telling people, according Nalanda tradition, we use maximum way about our intelligence. Through that way, transform about our emotion. That's the unique thing about the Nalanda tradition, not just prayer. So I do that. So from 3 o'clock morning, then next about 4 hours, some meditation, and including some prayer. Then afternoon, another 1 hour. So altogether 5 hours. So then my mind, my life, you see, whole my life, you see, in the circumstances of difficulties. For example, age 16, I lost my freedom. Age 24, I lost my own country. And a lot of sort of really sad news, often, till now. And meantime, as a Tibetan, I think 99% Tibetan trust me. So mentally, I cannot do much. So therefore, you see, mentally, a lot of sort of burden there. But however, as the Nalanda master say, the difficulties, the things when you face and analyze, if that difficulties can overcome, then no need worry. If the difficulties no way to overcome, then no use much worry. It's very realistic, very realistic. So I do that. So therefore, my late tutor often, you see, took this quotation. When I express some sort of sad thing, he always, you see, telling me and use this quotation. So it's very practical. And then also, you know, as is the Madhyamika philosophy's view, everything interconnected, interrelated. So one event not independently developed, but due to many other factors, including your own mistakes. Then, you see, there is no independent, absolute target of anger. Everything interrelated. So therefore, you see, that kind of attitude very, very helpful to keep peace of mind. Like that. So these are my secret.
Okay.
Then,
Yes.
then those people, I think including you, a little bit overweight. then you know, oh, 1 hour practice as a monk, no dinner. So that also very good to check, to balance our physical. Not like that.
Your Holiness, I have been given the permission to ask the next question.
Oh,
A major problem facing the world today
oh,
is radical Islam, which is very intransigent because it does not accept tolerance of others. What is the best way to deal with this?
I think you should not use the word because of radical Islam, sorry. Muslim. Looks, Indian Muslim and Muslim in Malaysia, Muslim in Indonesia. Because you see, the circumstances, they live with other tradition. So now in this country, India, Shia, Sunni, no problem. Now, I think the environment, some of these Muslim countries, I think Jordan, I have been some occasion, Jordan. I met some Jordanian school children. There are some questions, very sort of very same the other students or other countries because of education. More sort of because of the close touch with outside world. Whereas some Muslim countries, a little bit isolated, much less contact with outside world. Then I think the problem, the century-old concept, one religion, one truth. No. When I was in Tibet, a little bit isolated, I also have this sort of concept of one truth, one religion. That's Buddhism. When after came to India, more sort of wider contact with people from different faith, then they are wonderful people among the Muslim, among the Hindus, among the Christian, among the Jews, among the Sikhs. So therefore, that is very, very helpful, you see, to understand, to deeper understanding about the value of other tradition. Then the concept of several truth, several religion is very relevant. So, I think, recent years, you see, I publicly so stating the very wording the Muslim terrorist is wrong. You see, as soon as you see person whose background Muslim, you see, because of the committed violence, then actually no longer genuine Muslim. Some my Muslim friend told me, genuine Muslim practitioner, you see, if you create some bloodshed, then you are no longer genuine Muslim practitioner. And also, you see, they say the Muslim practitioner must extend love towards entire creation or creature of Allah. Really wonderful. And then the very meaning of jihad, not sort of hitting some other person, but real jihad meaning combat your own negative emotion. the former Chief Minister of Jammu Kashmir, Kasa Hong Min Kasa, Farooq Abdullah. Farooq Abdullah, you see, once told me that. Then one occasion in New York, I have some sort of meeting with some professors. I asked that, you see, I got confirmation from one Muslim scholar. So like that. So you see, I think due to narrow-minded, short-sighted, and not properly practiced Muslim, and due to their sort of behavior, then we create some kind of impression Islam is more militant or something. That is, I think, totally wrong. So we must respect Islam, one of the great religion, about, you see, 1 billion follower of Quran. So respect that. And gradually, you see, reach out our Muslim brothers, sisters, including eventually hardliner. Then their mind cool down. Due to some incidents, some sort of sad event, and military action, showing force, I think that hardened. Actually, September 11th, next day, 12th, I wrote a letter to President Bush because I know him. I respect him. So I wrote, while I express my sort of condolence, sadness, but I also express, I hope this problem will handle through non-violent way. So then later, of course, the Iraq crisis then happened. United States used force. So after sort of Iraq crisis happened, then another occasion, my meeting with President Bush, then I told him, I love you, I respect you, but some of your policies concerned, I have some reservation. I told him, we both laugh like that. So these things, I really feel, in spite of some sort of tragic sort of event in New York, in Washington, you see, handle these problems cool, with calm mind, and then eventually, if possible, reach out, Bin Laden. I think today, at that part of the world, maybe more safer. Something happened, they use force, try to crash. I think it is very easy, crash or physical, but our emotion, very difficult to crush. So father killed their children, children's children, feel some pains. That's the source of problem. We have to deal with their emotion, not just the physical control. So that's why India's non-violent principle is very, very essential. Yes, that's my view.
Right, Colonel Vasudev, since you come all the way from Chandigarh to listen to him.
Do you have further argument? Do you have? Do you have further argument?
Well, actually, yes. The very philosophy preached by some Wahhabi branch of Islam, they want to convert the whole world to Islam.
That I think indirectly, we Buddhists also, you see, we pray all sentient beings should reach Buddhahood. So that means should become Buddhist.
Okay, please.
Your Holiness, I'm Dr. Vasudeva from Chandigarh.
Oh,
Your Tibetan medicine, I believe, is very effective, especially the life-saving drugs for cancer for the serious diseases. Can you suggest me, or are you doing anything that such medicines are available not only in India, but the rest of the world, or that degrees or medical education which you impart to other Tibetan friends and population, can Indians also learn all that techniques of becoming a doctor and a postgraduate doctor? Thank you.
Like as an ancient Indian knowledge, Tibetan medicine, in 59, when we came, just a few qualified physicians. Then we start small institution. So then gradually wider contact through patients, including some sort of doctors in a big hospital in Delhi. Sometimes they prescribe, should ask Tibetan sort of doctor or Tibetan, because of that, a traditional Tibetan doctor. But still, you see, our institution not adequate, should increase. And now in Sarnath, you see, we have also the Tibetan kind of, Tibetan, what do you call Tibetan, some kind of Tibetan university, medical sort of also center also now created there. So therefore, actually, you see, Tibetan medicine, combination of, I think, three traditions: Ayurvedic medical system, then Chinese medical system, then Unani from Persia or something, that tradition. 8th century, under the auspices of Tibetan emperor, who sent invitation to Shantarakshita, so under his sort of auspice. This is some semi-international medical conference took place. So eventually, you see, existing Tibetan medical system is to combine all these the three traditions. Then plus our own, I think, 1,000-year-old certain sort of medical, local medical sort of tradition, like that. So now, I myself, you see, I regularly take Tibetan medicine. It's really immensely helpful, especially for preventive measure. Tibetan medicine, very good. If illness something become quite serious, then sometimes Tibetan medicine not much effective. So allopathic medicine much better. For example, my own sort of case, because gallbladder, Tibetan physicians say, oh, without surgery, it can cure. I think a few years I expect cure, but nothing happened. So then finally, you see, Dr. Chopi, she removed my gallbladder, like that. So in some cases, like that. But as a preventive measure, you see, Tibetan medicine, very good. And some serious illness, cancer, some cases, Tibetan medicine, you see, Kasota, as at the initial stage, Tibetan medicine work, effective, like that. So in any way, as you mentioned, I think it is really worthwhile to promote this medical system and further research and work. One individual Tibetan physician, eventually he established in Poland, Warsaw, small clinic. So finally, officially recognition also is developed. So similarly, I think we need more work and can Kasota can create more Tibetan clinic survey, medical. For example, in India, I think bigger city, Calcutta or Bangalore or these different places, I think eventually, I think really worthwhile to create some Tibetan clinic. It can be useful to many patients. Thank you. Then I think eventually, I think medical sort of school, I think it can sort of include some sort of Tibetan medical system. Okay.
My name is Dr. Shobha Srivastava, and my question to His Holiness is, mind is so intangible. Mind. Mind is so human mind is so intangible. There are so many thoughts. So how to be centered? How can we control the mind? Is the meditation and chanting the only answer?
Yes. Mind cannot see, cannot touch. In a way, the effect mind, if you use reasons, understanding, and then effect very easily goes mind. Mind can change. I think, you see, when you sort of student first join first class, as an ignorant mind, they do not know A, B, C, D. Then each class, each day, learning, actually it's changing their mind, the knowledge side. Ignorance reduced day by day. Now emotion, it is something different and more difficult. Some of these emotion is very much related with biological factor. So now here, the American, some sort of, like Wisconsin University, under the leadership of Richard Davidson, last, I think, more than 20 years, he carried some sort of experiment, investigation. So some of these practitioners who have several years certain meditation, you see, even their brain, neuroplasticity, some change. So in the past, the scientists, especially brain scientists, brain specialists, they do not accept existence of mind, just a brain. Now, later part of 20th century, you see, now these scientists accept, there is another third factor which affects our brain. That's mind. And that mind, through reasoning, now I think Buddhist psychology, say, and also I think Hindu psychology, I think these are more or less, generally speaking, same, except the question of Atma and Anatma. Question of Atma and Anatma, these are very deep. Otherwise, you say, very similar. Practice of Shila, practice of Shamatha, practice of Vipassana, same. One occasion in Bangalore, I met, I have some discussion with some sadhus, wonderful sadhu. He very much dedicated, helping student. I think a few thousand students, he provide lunch. Wonderful. So while we discuss some sort of talk, then I told him, practice of Shila, Shamatha, Vipassana, we are same. Except the concept of Atma and Anatma. Then I told him, for you, concept of Atma is more suitable. For me, concept of Anatma more suitable. So that's our private business. Right? So some people very much sort of, also they find this very effective about the concept of God, creator. Buddhists and Jainism, no concept of creator. But these are private business. One my Catholic, very good friend, one Catholic monk, we often discuss about practice of tolerance, practice of forgiveness, and promotion of love, compassion, these things. These are common, so we discuss. One day he asked me about the shunyata. He asked me. Then I told him, this is not your business. So like that. So therefore, so therefore, you see, I think generally the ancient Indian tradition, Buddhist tradition, more or less same. Or now my point is, there's certain emotion. If we investigate deeper, no solid basis. One scientist, one American, his name, Aaron Beck. See, he told me, when people develop anger, the object which you feel angry appears something very negative. But actually, that 90% of negativeness is mental projection. That's Nagarjuna's sort of state writing also exactly same. Therefore, you see, they analyze the very basis of anger, not solid. Deeper understanding about that automatically reduce strength of anger. Like that. And the positive emotion, such as compassion, solid basis. So that makes differences. So analytical meditation, analyze the very structure of that emotion. Most of harmful emotion without proper base. If you invest more, then you see no longer solid basis. The positive emotion, there is solid basis. Therefore, we can train. These are ancient Indian knowledge, not Tibetan knowledge. Before Buddhism reached there, one great Tibetan sort of also a scholar, he expressed, till light from India reached Tibet, in spite snow land, Tibet still dark. When light from India reached, then Tibet bright. Now today, Tibet even brighter than India.
Good. Okay. Srinjay. Yeah.
Your Holiness, perhaps no one has spent so much time dealing with China as you have for more than 50 years. Today, China is stronger economically, politically, and is much more aggressive. And particularly now that, it appears that China is even supporting terrorism, with what has happened with Maulana Masood Azhar. Can you tell us how China should be dealt with, particularly by India?
Now, certainly, you see, firstly, I always believe world belongs to humanity, not few leaders, or rajas, or ranis, or spiritual leaders. Actually, it belongs to people. Similarly, different country ultimately belongs to the people. So China, People's Republic of China, ultimately belongs to Chinese people. As far as Chinese people is concerned, I think the long history and, generally speaking, hardworking, and cultured people. Now today, during Cultural Revolution, systematically destroy all faith, and particularly Buddhist faith. Now today, China, 400 million Buddhist population. Now China become the biggest sort of populated, Buddhist populated sort of nation, like that. So I believe people, the government level, unfortunately, totalitarian system. No free speech, right? Freedom of speech, freedom of press. So I often telling Chinese, 1.3 billion Chinese people have every right to know the reality. Once Chinese people knows the reality, Chinese people also have the ability to judge what is right, what is wrong. So censorship is immoral. So I feel very important, you see, I think now since the official sort of policy, Chinese people put in because of the ignorant, because of the dark. So people's level, I think, for example, India, I think in profession field, including sort of medical, invite many Chinese sort of traditional sort of medical sort of because of the physicians, doctors, and also from India go there. And similarly, education field and many field. Then, if possible, you see, give some sort of sponsors for Chinese student. In certain field, you see here, I think much more deeper knowledge about certain technology, certain field. So India has sort of potential to help them. So bring some students. So that way, I do this. You see, I think every week, 15 Chinese from mainland China, most of them Buddhist, usually came. And I always receive them and talk. So that's way, so long, the government level, tight control there, then individual level, people's level. That's very important. Then people's level of China as a whole. I usually saying, you see, Mao's era, then Deng Xiaoping era, then Jiang Zemin era, Wu Jintao era, now Xi Jinping era. Same Communist Party, same system. The reality much change. Deng Xiaoping, I think he quite bold. Actually, you see, change the economic system against socialist Marxist sort of economic system. He follow capitalist system. And then Jiang Zemin, 3 represents. So already the indication to accept beside Communist Party, the intellectuals or some other. The Wu Jintao, 10 years, quite, not much change. Now, Xi Jinping, I think there is not much sort of alternative. I think must open China for their own interest. I think recent the Xi Jinping sort of statement, China has a global leadership. Oh, some thinking you see, so global level. I think these are, I hope, not just a statement. I think that kind of thinking. China, most populated nation. So, you see, it is Chinese duty to look up, to help, to respect other people. For that reason, trust from neighbor country is very essential. In order to create trust harmony, the present Chinese policy, not helpful. Always showing some sort of, I say, the aggressive sort of attitude. It's long run, very harmful. So basically, I'm hopeful. Things are changing. Things are changing. There are circumstances. I think one specialize in this respect. I think you may have some sort of certain sort of views or like that. I feel it's a patience, determination. I always telling sort of our struggle. See, something like struggle or power of truth. I mean, struggle between power of truth and power of gun. For temporary, power of gun is much stronger. Long run, power of truth is more stronger. Power of truth remain decade by decade or even centuries. Power of gun, no. Few decades change, like former Soviet Union. And China also is much changed. Changing, still changing. That's my view.
All right. Yeah, okay, Mr. Matuli first. You go.
Oh, long time friend.
Your Holiness, lovely to see you again. I just wanted to ask you about economics. What are Nalanda economics? Because it seems to me that modern economics are extremely violent. They're based on two emotions, greed in consumerism and in competition, which is a very aggressive thing. So how do you see, in terms of Ahimsa and Nalanda, economics today?
I wish I have something to say, but I'm this field, my knowledge zero. You know, one my friend, Dutch kasa ko minti. Ka, Heisenberg. Meisenberg, Meisenberg. Ka, Lawrence Meisenberg. Few years ago, you see, he asked me, he wanted to write a book about economy combined with moral principle. Then I told him, I don't know. Then he told me, he insists, really worthwhile to think. And economy side, you see, he can help. And then moral principle, of course, we can discuss. So one book appeared, already published. Ka.
The leader's ways.
Ka.
The leader's way.
Leaders kasa.
The way.
Leaders way. So there, I think some, also something like economy, sort of economy system combined with moral principle or compassion. I can't remember detail now. In any way, the economy, also economy of a human being. So every human activities, I think economy, without sort of sense of honest, truthful, there are a lot of corruptions. And also, you see, the economy, present economy system creates huge gap, rich and poor. Global level also, you see, huge gap. National level also huge gap. So these are sign of lack of moral principle in economy field. So finally, you see these, since you see huge gap, rich and poor. One occasion I expressed in Washington, the capital of the, I think, most richest nation. Suburbs are there. Suburbs, Washington, there are many poor people. So this gap not only morally wrong, but practically also source of problem. So some kind of, so therefore, as far as socio-economic theory is concerned, I'm Marxist. I prefer more equal distribution. That's much better. I think with awareness, then good. Of course, I must make clear, I'm totally against Leninism. Lenin, too much sort of control, like that. I think Lenin, I think wartime, you see, a certain sort of mentality or certain sort of way of thinking during wartime, something relevant. That is tight control, distrust, and deliberate sort of merciless sort of activities. Wartime is relevant. Unfortunately, what certain sort of way of thinking, wartime relevant, that eventually become the system of the, I think, socialist country or communism. That I think very bad. So original Karl Marx's theory, I very much attracted equal distribution. And the very motivation of Marxist economy is at that time in Europe, they are industrializing. So the workers, they simply, you see, hard work and kasachuti. The result of their hard work, you see, enjoy or use by elite people. So that's immoral. So he thinking worldwide working class people. So they are right. I think very right. Then equal distribution. So if Karl Marx is reappear, I think he may give a good scold to those socialist countries, totalitarian countries, I think.
Let me first thank you, Holiness, for your wonderful lecture. My name is Ishan Tiwari. Needed to ask you one simple question. You mentioned Xi Jinping, the Chinese president. Now, Xi Jinping is a modern leader, educated, as you know, in the US, has now supreme power, even controlling the army, everything. So, how has your interaction with Xi Jinping particularly been, with subject to your Tibetan occupation, as well as the general Chinese matrix?
I think many of you knows we are not seeking independence, but middle way of approach. And historically, many Chinese scholars, they say 7th century, 8th century, 9th century, at that time, there were 3 emperors: Chinese emperor, Chinese emperor, Mongol emperor, Tibetan emperor, equal. So during those periods, Tibet was an independent nation. Actually, last year I met one Chinese scholar. See, he told me, he carried research work, all the Chinese historical literature, documents. He told me from Tang dynasty till Manchu dynasty, no mentioned Tibet is part of China. And then you see the Kuomintang time and the communists, they use, you see, the material that Tibet is part of China is based on Tibetan. Some Tibetan sort of official sort of report or writing like that. he told me. So I think it's the Chinese emperor, and since 7th century, Tibetan emperor, Chinese emperor become very close. Then gradually, actually many Chinese emperor, you see, follow Buddhism. Now, so then we Tibetan lamas also, you see, because of the fond close relation with Chinese emperor. Then sometimes we usually call close relation with kasa priest and patron, priest kasa
Patron priest.
patron priest relations. Yeah. So you see, that scholar is telling me the Tibet is part of China. For that, all these sort of kasa a concept based on Tibetan writing. He told me like that. So in any way, I am real admirer of spirit of European Union. I think India's case also, before sort of British rule, you see, India, different state, different Maharaja, small kingdoms, isn't it? Imagine, small kingdom still remain there, or united India. I think united India is much more beneficial to Indian people. So small kingdom, then there are sometimes problems, unnecessary problems. So we also, you see, thinking now, like you see, European Union, Makchali, the Englishman is thinking, I don't know. Otherwise, you see, one my sort of long time my friend, not only friend, but actually teacher about quantum physics, one German professor von Weizsäcker. In 1990s, he told me, when he was young, as a young German, French is their enemy. And similarly, in eyes of French, Germany is their enemy. The 1990s, that kind of sort of attitude, that kind of feeling completely changed, disappeared, he told me. So French and German, I think through centuries, killing each other. So after Second World War, you see because of the principle of forgiveness and the reconciliation, then gradually European Union started. I really admire. So I often, you see, expressing that kind of spirit, European Union spirit, I think should create in Africa, African Union. Many of these, also the unnecessary killing, I think will reduce. And I think a lot of money can save. Otherwise, each country spend a lot of money for a defense or something like that. Then, while the British are leaving, I'm hoping eventually Russia should join. For that sort of first step, many years I sort of express the headquarters of NATO should shift to Moscow. You see, that reduce sort of suspicion, distrust. So like that. So I think in the future of the world, not separation in the name of independence, but rather I think work together. That's the future of the world. The other day I also mentioned, eventually Asia also some kind of union, including China, India, Japan, and some other states. That's much better. I think Sino-Indian relation, I think our aim should be genuine Hindi Chini bye bye. That I think not just a diplomatic way, I think genuinely that's mutual benefit. China, most populated nation, Indian nation, India, also the greatest democratic country. And number of Chinese follow Buddhism, that means India's tradition. So I think, you see, we have to think end of this century, 21st century, then next 22nd century. See, we should have sort of wider perspective, right? Like that. So therefore, you see, I'm not seeking independence. Remain within the People's Republic of China. And provided they should give us genuine sort of freedom regarding protection of our culture, our language, our environment.
Okay,
So
Navroz.
now elected political leadership also need to follow, you see, that policy. So I'm very happy.
Navroz.
Your Holiness, I am Navroz, and it's been an absolute honor to be hearing your thoughts. My question is slightly in the philosophical realm, and that is, spiritual fulfillment is the ultimate goal of the human soul, but it seems increasingly elusive as we progress further in the material world. So how do you suggest that we as mortal human beings successfully walk the tightrope between spirituality and material worldly commitments in our different role as students, as professionals, but at the same time continuing with the ultimate goal of spiritual fulfillment?
I usually used to telling generation of 20th century and generation of 21st century. You are generation of 21st century. We, generation of 20th century. Our century already gone. So we also now our walk one leg towards our final days. So now the generation of 21st century, you have the opportunity to create better century, peaceful century, more peaceful century. So you can enjoy the result or fruit of that effort. So now here, as we already sort of discussed, the genuine peace must come through inner peace, not through weapon. And on the basis of strong belief, oneness of 7 billion human beings. I want peace, they also want peace. I want progress, prosperity, they also want. So violence is mutual destruction. So no matter how sort of difficulties, we have to live together. So whenever we face some problem, some disagreement, we must find through dialogue, find to solution, mutually agreeable solution. That's the only way. Spend more money, prepare for military forces. I think increase more tension, more difficulties. And here is a big contradiction. The big nations spend a lot of money for weapon. And at the same time, nobody dare use this weapon, including nuclear weapon. If nuclear weapon actually is used, that's a mutual destruction. If the present sort of number of nuclear weapon used, I think some people say the Holocaust, if happened, then as a result of nuclear weapon, what call window or something, they say, become dark or something. So when they explain the consequences of nuclear holocaust, really very terrible. One occasion in Italy, you see, we have some Nobel laureate and some the expert about nuclear. You see, they explain the consequences if nuclear weapon use, Holocaust happen. Really unthinkable, terrible. So that meeting, I express now banning of free world because of free nuclear weapon, or banning nuclear weapon. It is not sufficient just to sort of against nuclear weapon. This is not sufficient. Now we must set up timetable. Within 2 years, within 3 years, we must reach free nuclear weapon. So the public, the worldwide public movement should start. I expressed that, but then nothing happened. So therefore, you see, the generation of the 21st century, I think you have this sort of special responsibility. If present sort of way of thinking, this system goes, this 21st century also will be miserable century. Killing. And many poor people, even facing starvation. Some elite people, they not only enjoy their sort of livelihood, but also, you see, create more tension. I think sometimes I jokingly used to telling people, my generation, our generation, I think including in front line sort of gentlemen, our sort of responsibility is create more problem. So the generation of 21st century, let them solve this problem. So I really used to feel like that. So all our hope is relying on the generation of 21st century. Please, now should not think or contented present or existing situation. You must think how to change this to create a more peaceful, more compassionate world on the basis of sense of oneness of 7 billion human beings. That can be done through education. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, His Holiness. My name is Suman. I'm a Vivekananda Kendra volunteer. My question is again from the spiritual field. If we are on the path of spiritual life, then we must have to renounce some things. And the biggest thing is, we must have to forget our individual identity as this body. But our ego as this body becomes the barrier. So is there any practical solution for this?
2 levels of spirituality practice, spiritual practice. One level, we are talking or we are thinking entire 7 billion human beings, their well-being. So simply, you see, through awareness, any activities motivated by anger, jealousy, these are destructive. After all, we are same brothers, sisters. Whether you believe religion or not, we are same human being. Now the climate condition, global warming, and environment issue, and also global economy. No differences, this nation or that nation. At a global economy and a global warming, national boundary or religious boundary, no relevant. We have to talk, we have to think, humanity. So thinking this line, that's another sort of level of spirituality. no need kasa renunciation sarve. Then another level, individual case, then like sort of Christianity, Buddhism, and Hindus and Muslims, you see some sort of special way to practice, the way, practice way. Buddhist case, you see, take some vows, like that, and including celebrated way. So therefore, I think we are talking the first line, how to build happy world. That does not mean the whole 7 billion human beings should be religious-minded people. No. I think in ancient time, when Buddha there, non-believer there. Now in modern time, certainly, as I mentioned earlier, around billion human beings, non-believer. And they're also human brothers, sisters. So therefore, you see, we especially sort of emphasize secular values, secular ethics. We should not sort of mixed with certain level of spirituality. That is sort of certain practice, including certain vows like that. In order to practice these things, first level, you don't need become a nun. You can carry, you see, because of marriage life, the entire 7 billion human being become more a strict religious practitioner. Then I think human population eventually cease. I think in spite of some problems we human being created, I think I prefer human being remain on this planet.
Okay. You want a question? No. All right. Last but one question. Yes, please. One question more.
Your Holiness, Sadar Pranam. My name is A.K. Parashar. I'm a retired police officer. Your Holiness, as you are aware, India is a practicing and thriving democracy for the last 70 years or so. And Your Holiness, you have also been in India for the last about 60 years or so, and you have seen it from close quarters. The hallmark of our democracy is freedom of the individual, freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of education, freedom of trade practices, freedom of worship, and all such freedoms which are available in the developed world also. Now, recently there has been a talk of a growing culture of intolerance. Some of our so-called intellectuals talk of growing culture of intolerance. You have seen Indian democracy working very closely. Would you agree that there is any growing intolerance, sense of intolerance or culture of intolerance? And would you like to say something about it?
Again, as I mentioned earlier, I always look people's level. So India also, I think generally, I think Indian people, I think wonderful. I think few individual politicians or some leaders, okay, sometimes a little bit strange. But that not representing, cannot represent Indian people. So that's my view. I think overall, India, look, compare Bangladesh, Pakistan, even Sri Lanka, and Afghanistan, all these, the neighboring states, I think this country, because of population, you see, in spite a lot of sort of drawbacks or difficulties, but overall, this country most stable, most peaceful. I feel like that. Yes?
Your Holiness, I am Mangi Agarwal. I'm a retired teacher.
Retired what?
Teacher.
Teacher? Oh.
Teacher. And I have now grown-up children, and my grandchildren are growing up, and they all have developed what we call so-called scientific and logical mind, so-called. How do I convince them, or what do I tell them about life after death or reincarnation? How do I convince them of those things? Our Indian thoughts are there, Your Holiness, any...
That's, I think, individual business, as I mentioned earlier. Some people, even some religious sort of tradition, like Buddhism, Jainism, and also Sankhyaism, you see, accept, say, life after life, no beginning of life. And then Christianity, Islam, I think Judaism, and some sort of Indian sort of tradition, also you see, have the concept, this very life created by God, by Deva. So there's different sort of views. So there is, all these spiritual sort of belief is personal matter, private sort of business. So we cannot sort of teach people, you believe this religion or that religion. That's up to them. I think provide, I think useful, you see, to mention, you see, different religions, different philosophy, different concept. They simply comparative study, where different spirituality. I think let them know there are many different traditions. That's much better, you see, to develop sense of mutual respect, mutual sort of harmony, these things. Then, you see, not necessary to say this belief is better, that belief is better. You cannot say. I'm Buddhist. Sometimes I describe I'm a staunch Buddhist because I study all the Nalanda masters sort of writing. So there are a lot of criticism, some other tradition. But I never state Buddhism is best. Religion, like medicine, to certain illness, particular medicine is best. We cannot say one medicine, this is best medicine. We cannot say. So similarly, according to certain people, different sort of mental disposition, for such person, you see, this religion is most suitable, so best. Generally, we cannot say, you see, this religion, that philosophy is best. Like that. So then logic goes very well, logical approach goes very well with scientists. So last 30 years, I have serious discussion with scientists because we, in Nalanda tradition, extensively sort of use logic. Buddha himself used to state it. That's, I think, something unique. Oh, my follower, bhikshus, scholars should not accept my teaching out of faith, out of devotion, but rather thorough investigation and experiment. That's very similar, that was scientific way of approach. So some Nalanda master actually rejected some Buddha's own teaching, certain Buddha's sort of teaching, some text, some Nalanda master say, you cannot accept this teaching because if you accept literally that sort of text, it goes against reason. So we should reject. So like Nalanda masters such as Nagarjuna and Chandrakirti, these actually, you see, because of the counter, Changa. I mentioned certain sutras, such sutra, about 10, I think 8 or 10 sutra, it mentioned you cannot accept this. That's, I think, something unique. Nalanda tradition, I think, very unique. So reason, consider reason is more important than Buddha's own word.